Hello and welcome to Health Talk. I'm Dr. Manny. French food, French wine, many would say these are some of the country's best exports. But my guest today says parents are also high on that list. Pamela Druckerman is the author of Bebe, Day by Day, 100 Keys to French Parenting, and she's here to tell me some of those tips. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Bebe, Day by Day. What a book. I wish I had this book when my kids were little, but I missed it. You didn't write it on time.
Well, the French were there waiting for you to learn from them.
I know, and I love the French. I was telling you that before. But you are an American living in Paris, very smart lady that you are. And one of the things that you did, I guess, is observe parents in France, how they raise their children.
Yeah, I didn't expect when I had a baby in France to find anything special about French parenting. But little by little, through lots of small observations, I noticed that life is different for parents there. That children in France typically eat much better, for starters. You don't have kids eating just kids' food all the time. Grown-ups and adults eat the same thing. There were babies who were sleeping through the night much sooner than the American babies around me were. By 3 or 4 months old, it was very common that babies were doing their nights, as they say in French.
Why the difference, though? Before we get to the specifics, why would the French parents be smarter than us?
Okay, well, there's a different, in some ways, French parenting resembles what American parenting was like when I grew up in the 70s and 80s.
Okay.
It's a little bit old school. Its life does not revolve entirely around the kids, and that's better for the kids. That's the overarching principle.
So it gives them a sense of more responsibility and, figure it out yourself type of thing?
Yeah, I think they do a combination of being very strict about a few key things and very comfortable. French parents are much more comfortable than the American parents I know and that I was saying no and meaning it because they don't want to fall into that cycle of kind of perpetual negotiations that we often find ourselves in America. But at the same time, they give kids a lot of freedom. French kids bake cakes and they, load the dishwasher at 3 years old and they make salad dressing.
But I got to tell you, one of my, and I think, this is definitely my fault. I was an immigrant and my parents were hardworking and, they gave me certain things, but I saw the struggle and, of course, that matured me in a very independent way.
Sure.
But here I am now, years later, a little bit more successful, a little bit more educated than my parents. So when my kids come along, my sense is, I'm going to give you things that I never had before because you're like part of my life.
Yeah.
And I know that I screwed it up big time. But
sure
here in America, we have a lot of that. We got parents like me that feel, I don't know, almost like they remember what they had to achieve, and now they want that compassion, that passive compassion.
Absolutely.
But you think that's bad?
Well, no, I think compassion is great. I am pro-compassion.
All right.
I just think that kids have started to take up such an enormous role in our lives that we've become sort of chauffeurs and servants to them, and giving them back a little responsibility is a good thing.
You had written a previous book, right, called Bringing Up Bebe.
Bringing Up Bebe, yes.
And now this is Bebe Day by Day.
This is sort of the sequel, the Bebe of the Bebe. The first book was really a memoir. It was about how I landed in France, how I discovered French parenting, how I tried to figure out how parents in France were getting these great solutions. But readers wrote to me and said, with all due respect to your personal story, what do I do? One
of the things you say, you are the keeper of the refrigerator, the fridge.
That's right. Yeah.
So what does that mean? Can't open the fridge?
You're making it sound very austere.
Oh, well.
No, kids don't snack in between meals in France. There's one official snack time of the day in the afternoon. And basically, they eat well at meal times. It sounds...
So not like in my house every other hour. People go in there, take the ice cream every other hour, take the yogurt.
No.
Kids come from school with their friends. They open none of that.
No, I think this helps explain why there's a much lower level of childhood obesity in France, is that kids eat at meal times, but not so much in between, just once a day. And what it means also is that when a child sits down to eat, he's actually hungry. So he's more likely to eat well at mealtime. So it creates this sort of virtuous cycle.
Don't let your child interrupt you.
Yes. I think in America we've gotten used to stopping everything when a child comes in, and that's why you have moms and dads who say, I can't finish a cup of coffee, I can't finish a conversation with my spouse, I have to take a date night in order to have any quality time. In France, children, of course, try to interrupt. They're normal kids.
Right.
And the parent will say, excuse me, honey, I'm in the middle of something. I'll be with you in a minute.
Arrête un moment.
Exactement. But the reverse is true as well. When the child is playing happily, parents try to let him be so he can learn this skill of playing and learn some patience and self-control.
All right. I like this one. Let them eat cake.
When I visited French families on the weekends, I very quickly noticed they were all baking cakes.
Right.
And it's a way of teaching kids patience and self-control. Even little kids get to participate. They have these simple cake recipes, and you learn sort of slowly how to follow the instructions and how to get pleasure out of slowly accomplishing something. The other side is you get to eat the cake at the end, but you eat it normally as an afternoon snack in the afternoon. So you have to wait.
So it takes away that whole concept of prefabricated food or packaged foods. In other words, it gives you a sense of how things develop.
Yes, and that too. Yeah, there's a lot that goes into the cake. And I give some recipes in the book. So.
Show kids that you have a life apart from them.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Well, what French parents, and especially moms, will say to me, this one friend of mine said she was going back to work in part so that her daughter would see that her whole life doesn't revolve around her daughter. She said, if a child thinks that all of the mother's happiness rests on her, it's a lot of responsibility for the child. So she says, and French parents say generally that, there should be this mysterious adult realm that kids aspire to join one day. They say, don't let your kids just run into your room whenever they want. Some of them say that.
Right.
You should have your own adult realm, and they talk about adult time in the evenings. They're very active parents. They're very involved. They're very much in communication with their kids, but they like to have their privacy too.
I know. I want to get to one of the last tips that you have. It says, punish rarely, but make it matter.
Yeah.
So what does that mean?
I think that they try to pick their battles and have certain no-go areas that the kids accept as kind of laws of nature. One of those is often, parents decide for themselves. Often it's politeness. You have to say hello and goodbye to people when you walk into a room. But they don't jump on kids for every little infraction because they think that your authority is diminished if you're using it all the time. So choose your battles.
As a matter of fact, this hits home because one of my next door neighbor both are French and they have a French child and they're raising her. And my argument with him is that in other words, this is my time. I take my naps. Don't interrupt me and all of that. And my kids are coming in and out of my life like there's no tomorrow. They even take me out of surgery sometimes. So sometimes I wish I had implemented some of the rules, and I think that they're important to consider.
A lot of the principles in the book are really just common sense ideas. They're things that some parents are probably doing already, and this just kind of gives reinforcement. It's the kind of book you can browse through, and certain ideas will resonate more at different times.
All right. Where can people get more information?
I have a website, PamelaDruckerman.com.
Okay, we'll have that. And remember, this is the book, parents. Look at it. Bebe. Day by day, and it has a lot of good tips and things. I think parents should consider this because I think it will help your life as you raise your child down the line. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.
Merci. And if you have any health questions, you can sell them here at Fox at drmanny@foxnews.com. I'm Dr. Manny. Thanks for watching.